Welcome to your personalized deep dive. Today we're time traveling to India. January 11th, 2025. We've got a whole stack of headlines from that day's newspapers,
We do.
and we're going to see what they can tell us about what life was like in India on that day.
It's really amazing how a single day's news can give us a snapshot of a nation's experience.
Yeah.
Its triumphs and challenges and hopes and anxieties, all there in black and white.
It is. It's fascinating. So our first headline takes us straight into the world of Indian politics. CBI files new FIR against Karti Chidambaram in corruption case. Accusations of corruption aren't exactly rare in politics, but what makes this one stand out to you?
Well, I think this one has the potential to be kind of a political earthquake.
Okay.
Karti Chidambaram's father, P. Chidambaram, is a big name in Indian politics. He was the finance minister.
Right.
And he has a lot of influence. So this case could send shockwaves through the entire system.
So this isn't just a legal case, it's a potential power struggle.
Exactly. It'll be interesting to see how this unfolds. It could have major implications for the balance of power in Indian politics.
Okay. So from potential political turmoil to a story of national pride. This headline caught my eye. Indian Navy receives sixth and final Scorpene-class submarine. Sixth and final? That's got to be a big deal.
It is a big deal. It marks the completion of a project that has taken quite a while to significantly boost India's naval power, specifically in the Indian Ocean.
Makes sense. And is the timing significant at all?
Yes, I think it is, because the Indian Ocean is becoming a very strategically important area. You've got China's growing presence there,
Right.
concerns about sea lanes, and a whole web of complex relationships between all the countries in that region. So this final submarine delivery is a statement.
Okay.
It's a way for India to signal its strength and its determination to protect its interests.
So it's not just about the submarine itself. It's
Right.
about what it represents.
Yeah, it's about what it represents on this larger geopolitical stage.
Exactly. Okay. Shifting gears from the high seas to the high mountains. This headline caught my attention. PM Modi to inaugurate Zimor Tunnel, boosting Kashmir-Ladakh connectivity. Now, on the surface, this just seems like an infrastructure project. So what's the big picture here?
Well, think about the implications. Kashmir and Ladakh are regions with huge strategic and economic potential, but they've often been hampered by limited access, especially during the winter. This tunnel changes that.
Oh.
It provides a reliable, all-weather connection, opening up these regions in a way that's never been possible before.
I see. So we're talking about a potential economic boom, easier access for tourists, and even potential benefits for the military.
Absolutely. And beyond that, it could also play a role in strengthening India's claim to these disputed territories.
Oh, wow.
It's a subtle but powerful way of asserting control.
I see a theme here. It's not just about the event itself, it's about the underlying message, the strategic implications, the ripple effects.
Exactly. And that's what makes these headlines so fascinating. You got to look beyond the surface to understand what's really going on.
For sure. Okay. Now for a couple of headlines that remind us that, that nature has a mind of its own. First up, dense fog disrupts flight services in Delhi as visibility drops to zero. Zero visibility.
Can you imagine the chaos at the airport? Flights delayed, canceled, passengers stranded, the whole city grinding to a halt. It's a reminder that even in a megacity like Delhi, we're ultimately at the mercy of the elements.
Absolutely. And it's not just Delhi feeling the chill. This next headline really sent shivers down my spine. Winter holidays declared in multiple states due to severe cold wave. Schools closed, people huddled indoors. Just how bad is this cold snap?
It's significant. It's enough to disrupt daily life across multiple states. And it fits into this larger pattern that we've been seeing globally.
Okay.
Increasingly intense and unpredictable weather events.
Right.
This cold wave is a stark reminder that climate change is not some abstract future threat. It's happening now.
Yeah.
And it's having real-world consequences.
That's a sobering thought. But, as they say, life goes on. We've got a headline about the Haryana board releasing exam dates and another about preparations for the Maha Kumbh festival in Prayagraj. It's kind of a reminder that amidst all the breaking news, everyday life continues.
It is. It's like these headlines offer a glimpse into the steady rhythm of life.
Yeah.
A counterpoint to the more dramatic events we've been discussing.
Absolutely. Now, zooming out to the international scene, this headline grabbed my attention. U.S.-British coalition launches airstrikes on Yemeni cities. Sounds serious. What's the context here?
That's the question, isn't it? The headline itself is pretty brief, lacking in detail, which is in itself telling. It suggests that this is a developing situation,
Okay.
potentially a very sensitive one, with international implications that are still unfolding.
Got it. So we've got potential political fallout, military action, and a lot of unknowns. Definitely one to keep an eye on.
Absolutely. This is a situation where a single event can have far-reaching consequences. It'll be interesting to see how this develops.
All right. From international conflict to a story that highlights the human cost of certain industries. Gas explosion traps 12 miners in Pakistan coal mine.
Tragic.
It really is. And unfortunately, it's not an isolated incident. Mining, especially in certain parts of the world, is incredibly dangerous.
Right.
This explosion brings to light the risks that many workers face every day,
Yeah.
often in pursuit of just a basic livelihood.
Right.
And the efforts to rescue those trapped miners, it'll be a race against time, a story of hope and despair.
It's a reminder that behind these headlines, behind these statistics,
Yeah.
there are real people whose lives are being impacted.
Absolutely. And that's something we should never forget.
For sure.
Okay.
Well, from the depths of a coal mine to the heights of sporting triumph, our next headline. Barcelona beats Athletic Bilbao 2-0 in Spanish Super Cup semifinal. Even amidst all the serious news, gotta have a little sports excitement, right?
Of course. And it's more than just a game, right? Sports have this way of uniting people,
Yeah.
transcending borders and cultural differences.
For sure. In a world often divided by conflict and tragedy, it's a reminder of our shared humanity.
I like that. Okay. That was quite a journey through just a handful of headlines. Politics, military power plays, infrastructure projects, natural disasters, international conflicts, industrial accidents, and even a bit of sporting triumph. And we're just getting started.
It's remarkable how much can happen in a single day.
Isn't it?
And we've only just scratched the surface.
We have.
There's so much more to explore.
Stay with us as we continue our deep dive into this fascinating snapshot of India on January 11th, 2025. You won't want to miss what comes next.
Yeah, it really is amazing how, these headlines, when you look at them all together, they paint such a vivid picture of a day in the life of a nation.
Okay, so we've talked about submarines and tunnels and, dense fog. But I want to dive back into the human side of things for a second with this headline. UPCM inspects preparations for Mahakumbh in Prayagraj. Now, I have to admit, I'm not super familiar with the Mahakumbh. Can you give me a little background?
Of course. The Mahakumbh, it's a massive Hindu pilgrimage and festival. It happens every 12 years
Oh, wow.
at 4 rotating locations around India.
Okay.
And literally millions of people from all walks of life, they come together to bathe in the sacred rivers, participate in all the religious rituals,
Wow.
and celebrate their faith. It is a truly awe-inspiring event. It's just a spectacle of color and devotion, just sheer human scale.
Millions of people. That's incredible.
Yeah.
So this headline about the CM inspecting preparations, what does that tell us?
Well, I think it shows that amidst all this other news, the political wrangling and the international tensions, the natural disasters, the wheels are already in motion for this incredibly important cultural event.
Right.
It's a reminder that life goes on, traditions endure, and faith continues to play a central role in the lives of millions of Indians.
It's a thread of continuity kind of weaving its way through everything else that's going on.
Exactly, and it speaks to the enduring power of faith and tradition, even in a world that's rapidly changing.
I like that. Okay, before we wrap up our deep dive into this particular day in India, I want to circle back to something you mentioned earlier. The idea that a single day's news can reflect, larger global trends. Do any of these headlines stand out to you in that regard?
Well, the headline about the U.S.-British airstrikes in Yemen, I think, is a prime example.
Okay.
It highlights this ongoing instability in that region,
Right.
this conflict with deep roots and very complex geopolitical implications.
Yeah.
And it raises questions about the role of Western powers in the Middle East, questions that have been debated for decades.
Right. So even though this headline is about a specific event, in a specific location, it's kind of a microcosm of a much larger, more complex global story.
Absolutely. And it reminds us that what happens in one corner of the world can have these ripple effects that are felt far and wide.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm also thinking about the headline about the severe cold wave in India. We talked about how it fits into this larger pattern of climate change,
Yeah.
which is obviously a global issue.
Exactly. And it's not just about rising temperatures, right, or melting glaciers. It's about extreme weather events, disrupted agriculture, mass migrations, geopolitical instability. Climate change is arguably the defining challenge of our time.
Yeah.
And it's playing out in different ways all over the world. This cold wave in India is just one small piece of a much larger puzzle.
So we've got international conflicts, climate change, political scandals, technological advancements, economic developments, and ancient traditions
Right.
all happening at the same time, all interconnected in ways that we don't even fully understand.
That's the beauty and the challenge of trying to understand the world, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's this constant flow of information, this swirling vortex of events and trends and ideas. And it's up to us to try to make sense of it all, to find the connections, to separate the signal from the noise.
It's a little overwhelming, but it's also pretty exciting. It's like we're detectives,
Yeah.
piecing together these clues, trying to solve this mystery that's constantly evolving.
Yeah, I like that analogy.
Uh-huh.
And the more we learn, the more we realize how much we don't know. Every answer just leads to more questions. Every discovery opens up new avenues for exploration.
That's very true. Okay, before we get too carried away with our detective work, let's bring our deep dive into January 11th, 2025 to a close. What are some key takeaways for our listener? What should they be thinking about as they, go about their day?
Well, I think, first and foremost, I hope this deep dive has given them a new appreciation for the complexity of the world,
Yeah,
how interconnected everything is.
for sure.
Even a seemingly ordinary day in a single country can reveal so much about the forces that are shaping all of our lives.
Yeah, and it's really made me think about how we consume news.
Right.
You know how we make sense of this constant barrage of information that's coming at us from all directions?
Right.
It's so easy to get overwhelmed, to feel like we're just skimming the surface.
Exactly. That's why it's so important to take a step back sometimes.
Yeah.
To dive deeper into specific events or issues, to look for the underlying patterns and connections. That's where the real insights lie.
And I'm also struck by the way these headlines highlight this, this duality of human experience.
Right.
We see progress and setbacks. We see these moments of hope and moments of despair, stories of triumph and stories of tragedy all happening at the same time.
Yeah. It's a reminder that life is rarely simple or straightforward. It's messy and unpredictable and full of contradictions,
Yeah.
and that's what makes it so fascinating.
Absolutely. So, as our listener goes about their day, I really encourage them to look beyond the headlines, to ask questions, to seek deeper understanding,
Yeah.
and to really embrace the complexity of the world around them.
And to remember that even a single day's news can offer a glimpse into this vast and ever-changing tapestry of human experience.
Beautifully put. Well, that brings us to the end of our deep dive into January 11th, 2025.
It does.
But the journey doesn't end here.
No, it doesn't.
Hmm.
We hope this has sparked a curiosity in our listener, a desire to keep exploring and keep learning.
Yeah.
Keep diving deep.
Keep diving deep, exactly.
Thanks for joining us on this adventure. Until next time, stay curious and stay engaged with the world around you.
It's funny, as we're wrapping up this deep dive, I'm wondering which headlines from this day in India stood out to you as a listener?
It is interesting, isn't it? Well, we've gone through and explored so many different facets of life in India on this one day.
Yeah.
Politics and the military, infrastructure, the environment, international relations, even sports and spirituality.
And the thing is, we've only just scratched the surface.
Yeah.
Each of these headlines could be a deep dive in itself. There are so many layers to unpack.
Absolutely.
So many stories to tell.
Exactly. Like, take, for example, the headline about the Zimor Tunnel.
Mhm.
We talked about the economic benefits and the strategic implications, but think about all the human stories behind this project.
Yeah,
The engineers who designed it, the
Right.
workers who built it,
of course.
the people whose lives are going to be changed by it.
It's like this tunnel is a bridge between the past and the future, connecting these generations and opening up new possibilities.
I like that.
And then there's that headline about the coal mine explosion in Pakistan. It's just such a stark reminder of the human cost of progress.
It is?
The risks that people face every day just trying to earn a living.
Absolutely.
It makes you think about, the choices we make as a society.
Yeah.
The balance between economic development and worker safety.
Right.
The responsibility we have to protect those who are most vulnerable.
It's a good point, yeah. These headlines aren't just about these events.
Oh.
They're about people, about choices, about values.
Absolutely. As we think back on this deep dive, I'm struck by how these headlines, taken together, paint this picture of a nation in transition.
Yeah.
India's a rising power on the world stage,
It is.
and it's grappling with all the opportunities and the challenges that come with that.
It's a story of ambition and aspiration. You see progress and setbacks, ancient traditions and modern aspirations, all existing together in this dynamic and constantly evolving society.
And it's a story that's still being written.
It is.
Who knows what the headlines will say tomorrow
Hey, crap.
or next year or a decade from now. But one thing's for sure,
What's that?
India's journey is going to continue to be one of the most fascinating stories of the 21st century.
I think you're right about that.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into a single day in India.
It's been my pleasure.
We hope it's giving you a new perspective on this complex and dynamic nation.
Absolutely.
Remember, the world is full of stories waiting to be discovered. Keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep diving deep.
I like that. Keep diving deep.
We'll see you on the next deep dive.